I left my home country of Canada, where I was born and raised almost a decade ago. And in this video, I'm going to share some of my reasons why I left Canada, the trends that I foresaw in the future, which have a lot of them now become a reality in Canada, and also the reason why we hear many of our clients who are looking to relocate from Canada to a new country abroad. So, while I haven't lived in Canada in almost a decade and I am not the correct person to go to in terms of trends or prices, when you're looking at Canada specific, some of the main reasons that I chose to leave Canada were for taxes, the direction that the government was going in, and healthcare, which I will definitely be touching on later in this video because this is a common misconception that I see among those who are not Canadian and think the healthcare system in Canada is perfect, which is far from the case. Now, taxes, direction of government, healthcare, these are all very popular reasons why I see many of our clients who are looking to relocate from Canada and leave that system officially. While it is not necessarily the easiest system to get out of officially, it is a possibility for almost anyone. Almost is the key word there. So, first of all, let's dive into the first point, which is a huge one, which is cost of living. I have younger friends who are in Canada who no longer dream of buying a home, of that American dream. They simply have a dream of getting by. And this is the reality in a lot of Western countries today, but not the reality in every country. And I see this quite often with clients where they think that prices in Canada, in the US, in the UK are skyrocketing. And so that must be the case in every other country in the world, which is absolutely not the case. You can relocate to Europe. You can buy a house in Panama, in Portugal, in almost every other country around the globe that is not a name brand Western country for a fraction of what you would expect to spend when you're purchasing a home or a new property in a country like Canada. The trajectory of the Canadian American dream has also changed quite a bit. A few short decades ago in the 90s, when, for example, my parents purchased a home and were also not only able to purchase one home, but were able to purchase multiple homes in order to build up a real estate portfolio. That is just not the reality with prices in Canada, in America. And that is just not a reality these days in a country like Canada. I saw a quote recently and it really got me thinking. It stated that the recipient's parents came to Canada in order to give them a better life. But now, did they need to move to a country in South America, a country in Asia or Europe in order to give their kids a better life, where cost of living was lower? Their children could have a higher quality of life, a better education, similar to what their parents were looking for when they came to Canada. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments below. The next point I'm going to talk about is crime and homelessness. Now, this is especially prevalent in cities, especially in Toronto and the GTA area or a bigger city like Vancouver. However, drugs, drug use, and crime to a degree, but especially homelessness when it's related to drug use, has always been an issue in Canada. Yes, of course, in certain parts of Canada and not in the tourist, beautiful, scenic roads that you see in Canada. However, drugs and homelessness were very much so things that I was aware of from a very young age, living in a somewhat small town in Canada. Not only is this prevalent, of course, in small towns, it's very much so prevalent in these larger cities. Of course, when it comes to crime, there are increasingly more shootings and gun use in Canada than there ever have been in the past as well. So, the next one I'm going to talk about is taxation. Now, Canada is by no means known as a low taxing country. However, in some provinces, if you're making over 250,000 Canadian dollars, which is not that much money, you're going to be put into a 50% plus marginal tax bracket, which is absolutely wild when you're looking at 250,000 Canadian dollars. Yes, you can do some things in Canada with that money, but you're not going to be living a lavish luxury lifestyle with that money to only be then put in a 50% plus. Definitely, it can be higher than 50% tax bracket. So using this map, you can make 200, 300 plus per year and still be living almost paycheck to paycheck, which is absolutely a reality for many Canadians, Canadians that I know personally as well, who have not yet left the system. Not only are you looking at getting taxed on your income each year, but there are also a variety of other taxes. Of course, you have sales tax, which depending on the province ranges from 5 to around 15%. You have a luxury goods tax, You have the carbon tax, which is going to be happening every time you go to fill up your car, which is quite a frequent occurrence. You have capital gains tax, and then, of course, you have the exit tax. While a lot of these taxes are imposed by high taxing Western countries, again, it's not the reality for every country out there. Just because all you know is Canada, America, or the UK doesn't mean that there aren't other countries in the globe. And trust me, there are countless where you can go to, you can keep almost all of your money, if not all of your money, and pay a 0% tax rate. This is a possibility for absolutely anyone. And you, as a Canadian, while it does take time, effort, and money to leave the system, it is still a possibility for you. Reach out to us. The link is below if you're interested in learning more about what that reality could look like for you, just as I have done for myself. So let's talk about another big one, which is lack of services. And specifically, we're going to be talking about healthcare. So, healthcare is a big one in Canada, and all of the conversations that I have had with others who are non Canadian think that we have the best healthcare system in the world. By no means am I saying it's the worst, but it is not the best. And they think that it is a free healthcare system. In theory, yes, it is a free healthcare system. But if you are paying taxes, especially if you're paying higher taxes in Canada, then if you look at it a certain way, it is not a free healthcare system, or you're subsidizing that system for those who are paying low. The healthcare service in Canada is extremely understaffed. And if you go to a walk in clinic or a hospital for ER, especially, you could easily be waiting between 4 to 12 hours on average in the ER. At a walk in clinic, it might be a little bit less, just depending on where the clinic is located. But I have experiences personally of waiting in the ER as a child and waiting for 12 hours plus. Now, as a contrast to this, when I was in Canada on a short visit, I did need an MRI on my knee. And this MRI was going to take about 6 to 8 months in order to just get the MRI. Where at the time I was living in China, I went back to China and I got the MRI within 7 to 10 days and paid about 100 USD. Got to keep the MRI in hand. If you're an expat, you're probably nodding your head because I'm sure you have a similar story to this when it comes to healthcare. However, if you have not yet left your high taxing Western country like Canada, then this is probably a new reality to you. Where, yes, healthcare abroad, and it does very much so depend on the country, but there are countless countries in Europe, Asia, and Latin America that have extremely good healthcare for a very low cost and low wait time. Yes, it's not completely free. You are paying for it, but would I rather pay a little bit of money? Maybe you're looking at a few $100s, maybe maximum a few $1,000s for something that is an intensive surgery with a long repair time in order for you to get out of the hospital. You could easily be looking at a few $1,000s or less and a very short, if any, wait time. Let's continue down our list, and the next one is politics. Now, we can dive into this one for days, but just to briefly scratch the surface here, the government in Canada is quickly sliding downhill. There are constantly new bills coming out, such as hate speech bills, censorship bills. And when you actually go and read these policies, a lot of them are just absolutely ludicrous. I am all for no hate speech as much as the next person, but what is actually written in these policies is a completely different story to what the title sounds like. Politics are very quickly declining in Canada. Am I bullish on the future of what that looks like in Canada after the next elections? Well, things may change, but unfortunately, when a country slides so downhill so quickly, I don't see them coming back anytime soon. Sometimes it's better to just cut your losses and move abroad. Now, the next category can seem very small and minute, but trust me, it absolutely is not when this is your life for the rest of your life, and that is the weather, specifically the freezing cold weather. So it is cold for about 6 to 8 months per year in Canada. And of course, that very much so varies depending on where you live. In some parts of the country, it's snowy. In some parts of the country, it's simply rainy. But for the most part, you're looking at about 6 to 8 months of no sunshine. And trust me, absolutely everyone, myself included when I lived there, is just waiting for the months when the sun is going to come out, when we can put shorts on, which usually happens for a week in April. If you know, you know. But it is just not the most ideal place if you're really looking from a lifestyle perspective as well as a tax perspective to be living. It's not the lifestyle that you're going to want unless you want to be on the ski slopes for most of the year. With it being cold for about 6 to 8 months of the year, again, depending on where you are in the country, it's going to start getting dark at around 4:35, 5:30. And this absolutely can take a toll on your mental health. Well, it sounds like a very small detail. When this is a life that you're living day to day to day for potentially the rest of your life, it no longer becomes a small detail, but it really does take a toll on you mentally. Not to mention waking up extra early, freezing your hands just to go start your car, or having to bring two pair of boots with you because there's slush outside and you need indoor shoes and outdoor shoes. But this is just the reality of living in a cold country like Canada, where it is cold for most of the year. So, on a personal note, one of the big reasons why I chose to leave Canada was for geo arbitrage. Now, if you're not familiar with the concept of geo arbitrage, it simply means earning money in a strong currency, US dollars, Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, and taking that money and living in a country where cost of living is much lower than the country that you earn that money. So essentially, your money is going to be spread much farther. Now, I saw the direction almost a decade ago that Canada was going in. And of course, that has very much so increased since 2020. But prices just continue to go up. And a lot of the middle class were being priced out, unfortunately. And that is very much so the reality that we see today. So I decided to take my investments and to leave the country, live elsewhere while still earning money in high currencies, not necessarily from Canada, but I still was earning money in a very strong currency. So I could live abroad and that money would go so much further in order for me to save, to invest, to do whatever I wanted with that additional margin of money that I now had. So geo arbitrage is a big reason that I hear quoted as to why many are looking to relocate. Again, if you're not going to a Western country, then likely the cost of living anywhere else in the world is going to be lower than your Canada, America, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Name the country. If it's not a Western country, you will be much better off going anywhere else in the world and saving 20, 30, maybe even 50% margin of what you're earning in that country because the cost of living is so much lower. It's been almost a decade, and I can very much so say that I am very happy with my decision to leave Canada. And while it's not the right decision for everyone, and of course, you have to make sure that the timing is right as well, you can still go back and visit. Now, is this something we recommend doing all the time or every year? Depending on your situation, this may not necessarily be the best situation for you to be in, but you still can go back to the country and you can still keep your citizenship, at least for now. If you're interested in learning more, if you are a Canadian like I am who's looking to relocate abroad to live either part time or even full time in another country, geo arbitrage your life, have excellent opportunities in terms of healthcare and even have potentially lower crime, drug, and homelessness rates than you can find in some of the major cities in Canada. Reach out to us below. All of our links are there. Send us a message on the website, and we're happy to help you further. If you're interested in learning more about some of the top countries I recommend in terms of both lifestyle and tax optimization, hit the video above, and I'll see you in that video.